Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. This is the show that covers all phases and aspects of the divorce journey so that you can avoid common, costly, and sometimes permanent mistakes and have a smarter, saner, savvier divorce. I'd like to introduce our wonderful host, Lisa Decker. Lisa is a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. She is also the CEO and founder of Divorce Money Matters and the awesome organization that brings you this show, Divorce Town USA. So Lisa, please let us know, what can we expect today?
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Marcella, my executive assistant, my right-hand gal, and my co-host here. I couldn't do this show without her. It wouldn't be any fun without her. So this month we've been bringing you the Divorce Better series, and today is part 4. You can divorce in peace. That's P.E.A.C.E. And hang on, folks, we're going to tell you what that acronym means. Our guest today is Cindy Harari, an attorney since 1985 who has consistently focused her practice on peaceful and alternative dispute resolution. For almost half of her career, she served as a certified family mediator and parenting coordinator. And in her current work as a divorce coach, she continues to guide clients to develop communication skills and proactive problem-solving techniques to settle divorce and parenting issues. So this is a great blend, a divorce attorney and mediator who can help you as a coach. You've got to stick around and listen to what this lady is going to tell you. She knows her stuff. Cindy understands the journey through divorce, both as a legal professional and as a participant. When facing her own divorce, she wanted to shield her children from the kind of contentious and ugly experience she had when her own parents divorced. She envisioned a long-term peaceful future for her family, and she continues to do what she can to make that happen. Cindy, I'm so excited to have you here today. Welcome, my friend, my colleague, Cindy Harari.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to see you.
And we are just so excited to learn about your peace plan. Why don't you start us off telling a little bit of background and how you came to develop this peace plan and how it can help folks who are watching us here today.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so first, just to be clear, this acronym P.E.A.C.E. is not something I personally developed. It is something that I learned as an attorney, mediator, parenting coordinator, practicing in the state of Florida. I believe the original genesis was with one of the family court judges, but it is such a useful acronym that it really does guide the entire process. And so when I talk about peace, I talk about it in 2 ways. One is overall peace, which we understand as a sense of being, but peace, P-E-A-C-E. P is for, peace really speaks to all of the elements that are going to exist in a marital settlement agreement. Okay, so, and before we even get to peace, if I may, well, actually, let me tell you the elements first, and then we'll circle back. All right. So every divorce has in it, when you have children, has a parenting plan. That's the P.
Mm-hmm.
E is for equitable distribution. That means think of your house or other things that you and your spouse might own. A is for alimony, now known as spousal support. C is for child support. And E is for everything else. So it's kind of a useful roadmap to know what it is you are going to be discussing in your divorce. And those are the things that need to be settled in every divorce with children. Now, the element of P, the parenting plan, is something that typically the courts will allow people to come up with on their own. You and your partner, you and your spouse, can have an idea of what your time sharing is going to be. That's what parenting plan means. The A for alimony is different in every state. Okay, so while peace is a global concept that can be utilized throughout the United States in every marital settlement area. The elements differ by jurisdiction. So every state is going to want the parents to have a time sharing or parenting plan. Equitable distribution is going to vary state by state, okay? But division of your home, your car, boats, I mean, whatever it is that you have, that will be included in your parenting plan. And these are for things that are marital, okay? The A for alimony is something that's going to exist based on typically the duration of your marriage, the ability of one person to pay, and the need for another person to receive. That varies in the state of Florida based on the term of the marriage, the ability of each party to work, and various things like that. It's now in the state of Florida, it's kind of in flux. So if anybody in Florida is listening, it's important to understand that the marital dissolution laws are really kind of in a state of flux, especially when it comes to alimony and parenting. In the state of Florida, just as an aside, there's talk about having a 50-50 assumption that each parent should have 50% of time. And there is a real big push to limit alimony. But that being said, let's move on. We've got P, parenting plan, E, equitable distribution, A, alimony, C is child support. Child support also, the calculations vary in different jurisdictions, but in every jurisdiction, each parent is required to support each child. And there is a formula in the state of Florida, most likely in other states as well, that considers the number of overnights each child will have with the parent, how the insurance for the child is paid, and various other factors regarding childcare that will go into figuring out what the child support amount is and who must pay whom. So that's the way that works. And the final E for everything else is just that. I mean, I can't tell you the number of different kinds of things that people have and need to share or want to keep, or, you know, but think about your personal things. Think about somebody who's got, I don't know, some kind of collection or something, or things that were accumulated during the marriage. I don't know, some people fight a lot over paintings. We hear that these days, you know, some people who are art collectors, which, you know, but whatever your thing is, there are going to be those little things that are not covered by P.E.A.C., and that's where they land up.
And I would say pets would fall under that. You know, we're starting to see people that an uptick in people who are having a hard time figuring out who's taking the family pet.
It's very interesting that you say that, because yes, it's a big thing. And I'll tell you that in my own situation with our pet, when I was divorcing, we decided that our pet would go with our children, that wherever the kids went, Riley would go. And that's the way we worked it, because she was really for their comfort and support, especially during that period of time, you know, but she was a family pet, but she wasn't, you know, she wasn't their dad's, she wasn't mine, she was really all of ours. So, you know, my thinking always goes to keeping the peace, you know, in a global way. So, you know, while you are working out all of these elements, you know, which you need to, I really do think it's important to keep the global piece in mind, because you can be the leader in your own family. And not to say everyone's going to follow you, not to say you can control them, because you can't, okay? But you do what you do. You stay steady, you stay consistent, and you stay peaceful. I want to circle back now to you know, to peace and the beginning of a divorce case, okay? A divorce case can be started in a couple of ways and can be settled in a couple of ways. Usually people think about a divorce as somebody files papers, then somebody has to answer, then the lawyers get involved, and then it goes kind of down the rabbit hole from there. Every state has its own laws about when pleadings, filing a case or having to respond, when all of that has to happen. My feeling about all of that, understanding what needs to happen as a lawyer, is to see what you can do first before you even file. Now, in some cases, there are people who can work things out. Some things, some elements of peace. Yes, they have the parenting plan worked out. Yes, they can figure out another element, but they can't figure everything out. What do you do then? Okay, you have options. You have options. One is to go to a mediator. A mediator does not represent either party. A mediator is there to be a neutral facilitator. And the neutral facilitator helps you arrive at all of the elements that are missing in your peace plan. Okay? That's a professional who has the ability to guide you and help you to make a plan. Now, mediation can be done before anybody even files a case. That comes as a surprise to people, but I found that that was one of the things that a lot of people really kind of want. Because once you get into the court system, you are on a timeline that the court rules. You have to do this by this, and this by this, and this by this. If you don't, there are legal ways to pause the proceedings, but it's, in my opinion, it's easier not to do that if at all possible. I recognize that it's not always possible. And I also want to share with you this little fact. A lot of times people file a case and they say, and we're going to trial, and we're going to trial, and we're going to trial. You're going to hear that a lot. But the truth is, more than 95% of all marital dissolution cases settle before trial. Mm-hmm. The thing that sometimes happens is that they get very drawn out, and they get drawn out, and the only people truly who are making money on the cases are the lawyers. Now, I have nothing against lawyers. I am one. I think that lawyers can be especially helpful to people in divorce, but I think it's important to know that you have other resources to rely on so that you're not doing everything just with your attorney. What I'm talking about are coaches, support groups, things like that. I think that one of the things that people don't recognize is how much the divorce process can take out of you if you don't give anything back to yourself. Okay, so I'm going to talk about self-care in a minute, but first I just want to talk to you about the concept of marital dissolution. And in a lot of states, divorce is called marital dissolution. That's the action. So when I first heard that term, dissolution, I thought to my old law school days and said, oh, this sounds just like a partnership. So why don't we do a dissolution that's like a partnership? Because a marriage really is just like a partnership. You have your partner, you have your partnership, you work. Sometimes the partnership has assets. In this case, the partnership assets are your children. The partnership dissolves. The only thing that remains are the assets. And both you and your partner want those assets, your children, to have the best life possible, to have the easiest time possible. And don't start saying, no, they don't want this, they don't want that. Let's not judge people, okay? Because if you are in the midst of this process, I read a book called, Crazy Divorce. People lose their minds going through this process. It's really, really super important to not do that, to know to bring yourself back. So anyway, when you dissolve your marriage, you have your assets continue. How much do you love your children? Can you quantify that? How much does their other parent love them? Can you quantify that? No. No, they love them with all their heart. That's what they do. They love them with as much as they possibly can. That's what they do. But I think when parents separate, it's the most important time to focus on not only yourself, but your children. So let me just switch gears for a second over to your children.
And while you do that, I just want to add something here that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, and that this is something that I share with clients in the very first meeting that I have with them, because so often people really don't understand what they're getting into when they go for a traditional litigated divorce. In fact, most people don't know there are other options besides filing for divorce, right? Where you're
Right.
giving us a lot of good information about that. But people should know, anyone listening to this, the average divorce in America cost somewhere between $15,000 to $25,000 per spouse. You heard me right, folks, $15,000 to $25,000 per spouse. And you won't know that walking in the door of a lawyer's office, because typically you'll be asked for a retainer of between $3,000 to $5,000. And a lot of people think that's the cost of the divorce. That's just a deposit to get things started. And once that retainer is used up, you'll be sent a request to refill the till, to add to the retainer again, so that the attorney can continue working on your case. That is normal. That is how it's done. But what we're sharing with you here today, and what we espouse all the time, if possible, is that you look at alternative dispute resolution methods that help you remain in control as much as possible of the process of your mind. And Cindy's going to tell us more about that here in a minute, but also of your wallet. Because I read a book once that said, would you rather fund your children's education or your attorney's children's education, right? Or your retirement or your attorney's retirement? And that kind of brings it back to earth, excuse me, that we really do need to understand what we're getting into from the very beginning, and having the proper mindset to get through this and come out on the other side the best light possible is so vitally important. So I just wanted to interject that, Cindy, because I think most people have no idea. And you're not saying, or I'm not saying, not to have attorneys. Attorneys are vital as a part of a divorce. It's the legal part. But how you work with an attorney, there are multiple ways to work with attorneys, and you can control that process as well. So Cindy, go back to where you were here. Thank you for bringing all this to light.
One thing, just really quick, I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I wanted to just clarify too, what Lisa said, that humongous number that she threw out there, that 15,000 to 25,000 per spouse, that's for a traditional litigated divorce that we've been talking about up till this point, trying to avoid. So that divorce doesn't have to be that expensive.
Oh, no.
That's the average for a traditional litigated divorce. And that's why Cindy's here giving you some great ideas of how to avoid that whenever possible.
And thank you, Marcella, because I'm so sorry, Cindy. I should have clarified that. And the fact is that that's also not going before a judge or a jury. That's just getting a normal divorce done. So what we're giving you here is a lot of background, folks, but Cindy's going to pick up from here and give you more information. Thank you both for clarifying.
Thanks to both of you. Lisa, one of the things that you said that just struck me is so true. I think having control of your own divorce is something that people don't really understand, because traditionally you go to a lawyer, the lawyer takes care of things. So in a traditional litigation situation, you have the least amount of control over what's going on, because you give your power over to the attorney. Okay. And the attorney typically says, yes, I will confer with my client, but we know this, the attorney is the professional. So a lot of people just follow the advice that the attorney gives them. It doesn't have to be that way. And in my view, it's better for everyone if it's not that way. I think what you made a very good point, Lisa. Every minute costs you when you talk to your attorney. And that's why I think it's important to be able to do a lot of these self-help things independently. Okay. So in terms of going back to where I was about your children, in this divorce, I think it's especially important to be sensitive to your children and to protect them as best you can. And I mean this for not just the person who's listening to this, but for your spouse as well. Everybody knows that your children didn't ask for this divorce. They don't want it. They want things to be, nice and tidy the way that everything has been. I think what you need to think about, and I have found very useful in dealing with my clients, and even in my own divorce, I started the precedent of talking to my children about children's stuff and not grown-up stuff. And grown-up stuff is what we imagine it to be. It's talking about your divorce or talking about your dating life or talking about anything with your child. Don't let your child become your confidant. Do not let your child be a messenger. Do not let your child tell the other spouse, their other parent, what mommy said or what daddy said. You don't want to hear that, and they should not have to carry that. I think one of the things that that helps most is that children need to talk about divorce in an appropriate way. I do have some books and resources, but one of the most important books that I've ever read is called Mom's House, Dad's House. It is by a PhD named Dr. Isolina Ricci, excuse me. And there is a Mom's House, Dad's House book written especially for children too. And in it, it explains how having two homes can work out just fine. It takes a lot of work. And if you're listening to this, you know that you are going through a lot of changes and you're going to be doing a lot of work. So I'm here to tell you that you are going to be continuing to do a lot of work. But the thing that will make your work easier is self-care. That is another really critical, important of going, a critical part of going through this divorce process. I think that divorce, well, not that I think, I know, divorce can be a very lonely time. There's so many changes happening in your life. Sometimes you get lonely when your children aren't with you, and they're with the other parent, and that makes you uncomfortable. It's sad because your marriage is ending. There's all sorts of things going through your head. But this can be marital. I'm going to withdraw that like an attorney because I can. Sorry. Going through divorce can be a really good opportunity. A really good opportunity for self-growth. One of the best books I ever read about that is called, I'm holding it right here. It's by Debbie Ford. It's a book called Spiritual Divorce, Divorce as a Catalyst for an Extraordinary Life. I urge you to read things like that. Read what makes you happy. Find things that can center you. Make sure to take a walk, make sure to do yoga, make sure to have a support group, do what you can. There are online resources. Go to Divorcetown USA and see what you can learn. Go, if you get an Instagram or Facebook, subscribe to things that give you positive messages every day. Every little shot of happiness, can help as we go through this process. Because as I tell my people also when they come to see me, especially in mediation, you're a family forever. You are, no matter what you look like. You still have a child, and when your child has all of those special life events, you want to be the parents who are sitting in the rows looking at your child together. If at all possible, you want to be able to attend your children's events together. Do you want to make 2 birthday parties? Do you really want your child to have 2 weddings? You know, your child will not have 2 high school or college graduations if they get there. Don't you want to be able to be there and make it more supportive, make the event more supportive for your children than to have to look at a fractured family? You know, it's not good for them. So think of them. And, you know, just as a word to the wise, children do grow up pretty quickly. You know, we have a limited time to do what we can to do what we feel is best for them. And then we're pretty much, you know, we're still in the background there, you know, but we get to deliver the main messages very early on. So I ask that you do whatever you can to help your children and help yourself, because all of this, peace, taking care of yourself, putting your children first, it's like a big circle that keeps going around. Okay, it's not linear. Divorce isn't linear. Divorce goes all sorts of ways. It's not, you know, and this is how life is going to be. So whatever time you have to be with your children, make it count. You know, set the precedent for how you want your family to be. And remember, one last thing, all of those relationships that people have, you know, your family relationships. Think of it as throwing a pebble in water and looking at all those concentric circles, and all of those are relationships that have been built around your family. Well, all of those still exist. Your children are not going to want to, you know, end their relationship with their dad's family, nor should they. And they should not end their relationship with your family extended, should they? No. You know, in a rare situation, but maybe not so rare, everybody can be together. And I never thought I would say this in my life, but I'm going to say this. Sometimes you get a really good message from what's happening in the world and in the entertainment world of all things. But think of people like Demi Moore and Bruce Willis and the kind of marriage that they have. You know, nobody's saying it's perfect. Nobody's saying nobody ever fought. It's not ever like that. But they are showing an example of what it means to live with your children, have your children grow up and still maintain a relationship with your spouse and with their extended family. You know, I mean, even somebody like, you know, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, who, again, I never thought I would talk about like this. She seems to be delivering a message of keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace.
Yeah.
So, you know, pay attention. And
Yes.
if I can be of any assistance, I'm on Divorcetown USA, and you can reach me there.
Yes, Cindy, you are one of our treasured members. Cindy Harari, folks, out of Florida, mediator, attorney, divorce coach extraordinaire. She has the background and the experience to help you get through this in a better way possible, and the best light possible with her knowledge and experience. And Cindy, I want to thank you for that. I'm going to leave with one message before Marcella wraps us up here, and that is to remember, whether it's your health or your wealth or whatever matters you're going through in your life, be a proactive partner, not a passive participant. When we talk about, you know, giving your power over to the attorney or to a doctor and letting them make decisions for you, that is the worst path to go down. You need to be proactively making decisions right alongside those advisors that you hire to get you through the tough times in your life. All right. Thank you again, Cindy. This has been such a pleasure, and thank you for your wonderful knowledge. And Marcella, I'll turn it over to you and wrap us up.
Sure, we just have a minute to go, but I do want to just very briefly, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this next slide. We talked a lot about getting your hands on resources. So if you go to Divorcetown USA and you download the Divorcetown Roadmap, one of the things that Cindy talked about was working together on your parenting plan, working together on how you're going to equitably distribute whatever assets and liabilities came from your marriage. And you don't have to do it alone. You don't necessarily have to fight it out with an attorney, but we have parenting coordinators. We have certified divorce financial analysts. We have mediators. within the Divorcetown network, there are so many different types of professionals that can help you with the parts of peace that you may be struggling with on your own. So the more you can work out together, the better. And this is where we can come in and help you. And of course, all of these different avenues and all of these different streets within Divorcetown are still going to take you to an attorney at some point, because you are definitely going to need legal advice. So I did want to spend a little bit of time on that, because this really does play into what Cindy was talking about today and how you can do some of these things on your own with good resources. One other resource that Cindy mentioned was a support group. We do have a support group available to anyone, anywhere. You can get to it through meetup.com, or if you can't remember that, just go to Divorcetown and there's a link there as well. Next week, finally, we're going to be talking about shifting gears just a little bit from types of divorce, and we're going to focus on a divorce that has children with special needs. This is such an important topic, and this is something that is very unique to families that are dealing with this situation. So we have a special guest next week, Marianne Elhart, who's the president and founder of Protected Tomorrows, and she is going to be giving us some excellent advice and help with families that are dealing with any type of special needs and divorce. Thank you so much for being here today. As always, we are helping the world divorce better, one family at a time, and we'll see you here next week, same time, same channel, new topic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.